This is Deborah Atkinson. Welcome to the Flipping 50 show, where I address your top questions and challenges so you can have more ease and less decision fatigue about what to eat, how to move, and habits that help you flip 50 for a life and energy you love in the second half. And I am super excited to introduce my guest, Maria Uspenski, and I'm hoping I pronounced that right, from the Tea Spot here in Boulder, Colorado. She's gracious already. She hasn't even begun. So I'm going to read to you this great bio and intro, and it may be a little longer than you're used to because it's also very important. So bear with me. Maria is the founder of the Tea Spot, where her mission is to advance healthier living through the everyday enjoyment of whole leaf tea. Her message is simple and powerful. Tea in its freshest form is sustainable and renders exceptional flavor and unmatched health benefits. An MIT mechanical engineer by trade, Uspenski is the innovative force listed on 3 U.S. patents for steepware inventions which promote the ease of tea preparation. She is the author of Cancer Hates Tea, published by Page Street Books in 2016, and has been a regular contributor to blogs for the Denver Post, Teaching, and the Tea Spot. Maria was recognized as the top tea health advocate at the 2017 World Tea Expo. She's called on to lecture at universities and conferences nationwide. Maria has been featured in the Huffington Post, on television, radio, and podcast interviews for her success as a social entrepreneur and certified tea and fitness nutrition expert. The Tea Spot donates 10% of all sales in kind to cancer and community wellness. To date, the Boulder, Colorado-based company has supported over 100 organizations and touched more than 100,000 lives with this 10% pledge. Maria, it's an honor to have you here.
Thank you so much, Deborah.
Well, I want to tell a little bit of the story about how we met. So in a little business here in Boulder, Colorado, where there are maybe what we would call 5-minute mini TED Talks held monthly, featuring women who are inspiring, who are motivational, and who have a story to tell. I got in on the tail end as I came in late one night and then saw Maria's book. She was already sitting down. I was standing in the back and I saw her book, Cancer Hates Tea. And I was like, I need to interview this woman. And I needed her to come and share her story with all of you. So that's how she's landed here. We are brand new acquaintances. So as I ask questions of Maria today, they are not for show. They are literally my questions of her. And so she's spilling all the beans for all of us. So I want you to, if you will, lay the setting. So this is your bio. Didn't truly share the whole story. So there obviously is a personal message behind this that I know. You had a personal story and history of cancer.
Yes. And lucky for you, I was way beyond 50, so it fit really well into your model here.
How lucky for me. Yeah.
And I was going to say that anyone who has lived, I'm 58 now, for this long, clearly has some story behind them and, baggage, as we all like to say. And one of mine is that I have experienced an active cancer. And that is something which, unfortunately, all of us are vulnerable to almost any time, more so the older we get. I was not considered old when I got mine. I actually got over my cancer 14 years ago. So it was just after I turned 40 that I got sick. And it is something that, of course, changes you. We all know people who've dealt with life-threatening illnesses, the loss of a spouse, even your parents, which is a normal thing that we are all supposed to go through in life. You name it, or losing a job or having a bad car accident, whatever it might be, a huge setback. that changes their life for always. And life can continue to be good. Life can continue to be even better, but it is never the same after that event. And this was definitely something that was jolting and jarring enough for me, with kids who were teens at the time, to all of a sudden realize that I could be no longer a part of their picture at some point in the not too distant future. And that was just not a message that I was prepared to hear. I had always thought of myself as healthy. I was living at that time, as I do now, in Boulder, Colorado. Where I know that makes it sound like we all think that we're healthy because we live here, and yet we do have a pretty high incidence of many cancers. But it's just a very active kind of place. We have more natural food stores than Starbucks probably in this town. And again, it was something that when I first understood the diagnosis, I just thought, now, wait a minute, that just doesn't fit with my self-image. And then when the reality sets in and you're dealing with the disease, with trying to get rid of it, and it still is in this day and age something that we work on with big, heavy tools. And in my case, it's surgery and chemo. That's about all the energy that you've got left, is to focus on getting better. And needless to say, when you've got teenage girls, and I was a single mom, you need to ensure, of course, that your children are a huge priority. And I maintained my level of energy to be at its most positive when my kids were coming home from school and through dinner, in order to be able to kind of fulfill what I felt was the most important role in my life at that point. I had another company which I sold, fortunately, shortly before this all happened. And so I was simply consulting and involved in work engagements that I was able to step away from at that time, which with the T-Spot now is no longer the case. But, once you start a business, it is a full-time job. It's as full-time as anything you can imagine. But back to learning about tea, it was as I was getting better that I just wanted to get my hands on everything that I could, every piece of research that showed whatever mechanisms and dietary and lifestyle changes one could introduce and embrace and really follow seriously in their life to ensure that this disease didn't come back. And tea just kept coming up again and again and again. And finally, I researched that more seriously and found that tea, and green teas in particular, whole leaf teas that people steep on their own, have a much higher proportion of those phytochemicals, the chemicals in plants that are good for us, than a lot of other tea products that you might pick up that are in bottles or kind of dusty old tea bags on the shelf. And so I made green teas, and in particular matcha green tea, which is the powdered form where you ingest the whole leaf, a part of my everyday regimen from that point moving forward.
Wow. And are you still doing that yet today?
I am, yes. And of course, it's easier I have a more diverse selection of teas because we have this lovely tea company. So yeah, it's a part of my everyday, but without even thinking at this point. It's just something I wake up to tea and I drink tea throughout the day. And then of course, there are a lot of teas that I have to taste and drink because of our business.
Sure. Okay. And I want to tell you that, so a little backstory you don't know. Many of our listeners who are blog followers or podcast listeners and tuning in as subscribers are aware that recent research about that green powdered extract, putting that into smoothies has been recommended. And there's some studies showing that having that about 90 minutes before doing interval training actually boosts fat burning potential by 29%. So another reason to be drinking that.
Absolutely. And that's so interesting. That statistic is actually in my book. And that's the number that you reference is from a Japanese study that was done with endurance athletes. Exactly. And kind of a byproduct was that it also burned metabolism more seriously. So yeah, especially for those of us who we know after 50, and it's funny how you say flipping 50, and I want to say flip off 50. It's
exactly right. Well,
nice to have those little tools that that you can always turn to that work for you. And of course, we're all different, but the chemistry in tea is such that indeed it is a metabolic burner. And especially, as you quoted precisely, taking it 30 minutes before exercise is the perfect time to optimize its benefits for that purpose.
Awesome. And so I want to clarify, because I think the study that I was reading said 90 minutes before, because that peaks it in the bloodstream at the right time. So 30?
Oh, that's interesting. No, I had definitely read drinking it 30 minutes before. Okay. So it's probably fine 30 to 90. As long as you're not exercising for more than a half hour, because the polyphenols stay in your system for 2 hours.
Amazing. Okay, that tip is very valuable. So great. We'll be sure to do a follow-up on that one as well. Yeah, love it. And I want to dig into this as far as, Cancer Hates Tea. How much so I know we're talking about the phytochemicals and the benefits that actually are physical in nature. What about the property of the mindset of sitting down to a glass of tea and the calm, the routine, the ritual? How much do you think that comes into play?
I think the ritual is huge. There's also a chemical reason for which it works. So there's another chemical in tea. So the two probably most well-known classifications of chemicals in tea are, of course, the caffeine that it has in it. And especially black tea has about half the caffeine of an equivalent serving size of coffee. Green tea has about 1/5 the caffeine of a cup of coffee, but its effects last a little longer. And then the other thing that we are all now tuned into with respect to tea is what you bring up that helps the metabolism as well, are the polyphenol antioxidants that work to clean up any kind of damage and result of stress that has happened to our body. And that's why tea is introduced as an anti-aging, anti-disease, bone strengthening type of a beverage. But there's a third molecule that's probably the real silver bullet in the whole equation with respect to making us love tea, which is called L-theanine. So this is an amino acid which I refer to as a mashup of chill pill and brain juice. So this
perfection
molecule, exactly. This molecule is only present in tea and one obscure mushroom. And so it is actually, people are getting extracts of it from tea and making pills. They're making a pharmaceutical from it, which is given to children with ADHD. So that gives you an idea as to what it does. So what it allows you to do, and this is what attracted Zen Buddhist monks to drink tea before they were meditating for days on end, it allows you to focus while calming you down. So imagine how perfect that is. The caffeine, and it also helps mitigate the effects of the caffeine. And that's why people often say, okay, so half as much caffeine as in coffee. But the L-theanine in combination with the caffeine actually makes the effects of caffeine work noticeably differently on many people than the caffeine molecule in coffee, which is present without the L-theanine. So it's a great little molecule, which is a feel-good molecule, for lack of a better term. And it's something which I think contributes into making tea a wonderful community beverage, whether that community is just you and your pot of tea, or whether that community is you and a bunch of friends. I mean, if you think, when the stuff really hits the fan, be it in literature, like in Harry Potter, or the Ladies' #1 Detective Agency is another series of books that always turn to tea, or even in real life, if something really bad happens, you generally don't get people to sit down with a cup of coffee or a bottle of scotch, you calm people down with a pot of tea. And there's actually a legitimate chemical reason for that, and that's that L-theanine molecule.
So interesting. So what is the ideal recommendation? Is there an ideal number of cups of tea a day, or does it depend on what type of tea you're choosing?
Both of those are correct. So it does in part depend on the type of tea that you're choosing. You do want to drink, and what that will inform perhaps is if you're caffeine sensitive. In general, the numbers stack up in favor of having 5 to 6 servings of tea per day. And by servings, we mean 6 to 8 ounces. So 5 to 6 servings is anywhere between 32 and 40 ounces, which may sound like a lot, but literally 32 ounces, think of it as 2 16-ounce mugs. Or I tend to do it as an 8-ounce serving of green tea in the morning, and then a half teaspoon of matcha sometime during the day, either as a beverage or mixed into some yogurt or a smoothie or sprinkled on popcorn. And then a big mug of black tea. And then ultimately I might have another serving of oolong or white tea in the afternoon. But it's having it, again, consistently throughout the day, because as you recall, those polyphenols sit in your body. They need to be replenished pretty much every 2 hours. You don't want to drink a ton of caffeine, at least I don't, and especially those of us who are after 50 notice that we might be a little more sensitive to caffeine. I don't like to have caffeine after 5 o'clock. That is oftentimes my kind of end of day drink. A lot of people like to finish the day with a happy hour. And if I'm out with friends and in a bar, I'm certainly not going to order a tea. I'll probably order a glass of beer or wine. But if I'm home alone and I want to mark the end of the workday, I find that having a calming cup of exquisite tea is a much more appropriate way for me to ease into the evening. So I'll pick a lower caffeinated tea. I'll make it warm. And it's interesting, we say exquisite tea and people immediately think, oh, that's pricey. But if you steep your tea yourself, it's really hard to find a tea that you're going to pay more than 50 cents per serving for, even if it's a very high-end tea. So we can all pretty much allow ourselves a really great cup of tea at the end of the workday. And that's a nice way to kind of put an end to all of your work, calm your way into thinking about the evening, and then call it quits on your caffeine consumption for that day. So with respect to tea types and those 5 servings, I would probably not be fun to be around if I were drinking 40 ounces of black tea per day. My body doesn't need that. I crave the green tea or the white teas and oolong teas, which are lower per serving in caffeine. But I think it depends on the person. The Irish are known for drinking 5 to 6 cups. Their average men drink 5 to 6 cups of black tea a day. And
really?
Yeah. And so I think it's what you're used to. And a lot of Americans drink 3 cups of coffee a day, and that's equivalent to 6 cups of black tea. So I think it's all a question of personal caffeine sensitivity. And as you can probably tell, I get spun up enough without a lot of chemical interventions. So I do just fine without hefty amounts of caffeine.
Maria, are you there?
Yeah, I am there. Do you hear me?
Yeah, I think there was just a little cutting in and out. So,
gotcha.
So yeah, if there was a long pause there, I apologize to our listeners, but that was me on my end. I was feeling like we lost a little internet. I'm wondering if you can share just a little synopsis of Cancer Hates Tea. I got to see it. I got to hold it, feel it, flip through the pages. It's a beautiful book, absolutely beautiful. Do you want to share with readers just really what prompted you to write it.
Yeah.
And then,
No,
what are some of your favorite parts or pieces that, are juicy tidbits you might lead listeners to?
So I will get to the parts in the book that are my favorites, but what I love most about the book is exactly what you say about it, is that it is beautiful. It feels really great to hold and touch. My publisher did an amazing job. Page Street Books just has books which all are, from a design perspective, I felt that it supported the message of the book perfectly. And I got to work with a lovely photographer by the name of Ted Axelrod. And then the cover photography and illustrations were done by my colleague, Hope Larson, who's an incredible illustrator and designer in her own right. So for me, the book really is a compilation of all of their artistic work, all of my sitting down and writing and essentially going through this therapeutic exercise of, for 5 months, putting down everything that I'd learned. And of course, all of my colleagues are present in that as well, because a lot of what I've learned about tea, I've learned in the 13 years since we've started our business. And needless to say, a lot of the research and tidbits that are in there are things that my colleagues have pointed me to in that timeline as well. So I was approached by this publisher initially to do a tea cookbook, and I just kind of thought, I'm not a chef. I, of course, love tea, and I do love cooking with tea, but I just felt that I wasn't the best choice for someone to work that type of a book. They had read some of my writing online and had reached out and asked to do that. But then I asked them, well, would you be interested in doing such a book if it had a little more of a health bent to it? Because that's really my passion. And they were very supportive and actually went very strongly down the path of, okay, if we do that, then it's going to be an anti-cancer book. You need to go full guns on this message. And I ultimately embraced it. I had a little trouble with it at first because it wasn't a story that I talked about a lot, even though our company is a for-profit philanthropic company and the whole anti-cancer bit is the foundation of our company. So we not only are doing this with the reason of trying to get people to live a healthier lifestyle through tea, but those 10% donations for cancer and community wellness are, of course, a very big integral part of the company's mission. So that said, I think what I love most about the book is that it's a very good training manual for practical knowledge about how to make tea easy, how to find the right teas for yourself, and then how to easily get up to those 5 servings per day. So the whole first parts of the book address how cancer works, how tea works against cancer, what are other things you can do in your life, all of which are aided by different kind of teas and tea ceremonies, etc., like fitness, heart health, yoga and meditation, even socializing with friends. These are all great anti-cancer weapons. But then the last part of the book is about pulling it all together. It's got a few quizzes that you can go through that will help you identify what teas might be most to your liking, because the world of tea is, crazily diverse, and how to make those teas so that you'll enjoy how they taste, so that you get the benefit from them, and then how to really organize them throughout your day. Because if you just came up to a random person who's not drinking tea and said, so as of tomorrow, you're going to be drinking 5 servings of tea a day, they'd say, that is, I'm sorry, my plate is way too full. But there are such easy ways, including cold brewing, and then the whole matcha trick of just, swiping that into some food or a snack or into a latte, that truly make it it can become second nature in probably as quickly as 3 weeks. And the beautiful thing is that people who follow that type of regimen start feeling the benefits that quickly. So in 6 weeks, your body functionally is already benefiting from your introducing a tea dosage on a daily basis. But people insist that they start to feel the benefits after 2 to 3 weeks. So I think that's the part that I'm, perhaps it's a stretch to say, most proud of having communicated in there. But that was my primary intention, was to take away the barriers from making tea seem complicated, expensive, and finicky, and to make it something that truly was a simple thing to integrate, to make a part of your everyday.
I love that. Love, 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 love. And I so wish all of you who are listening right now could see the book and feel the book. So I hope you do go investigate. But I want to bring you back to, you mentioned, 2 to 3 weeks that you could see or feel benefit. Talk to me about what benefits are those that are most prominent right away.
So one of the primary benefits is, and in no way to diss coffee or to ask people to ditch coffee, but if people cut down their caffeine intake or replace 1 or 2 of their coffee servings each day with tea, they will definitely notice a sense of perhaps increased productivity and more calm in their day. So that's, again, thanks to this lowering in caffeine and the introduction of that L-theanine molecule. The other thing is, after you've been...
Love it. I'm signing up. I can take that. Yep.
I know, we can all use a little of that, right?
Definitely.
And then the other one is the introduction of these antioxidants on a regular basis. One of the things that many employees who start in my business say after a year and a half, 2 years, they'll say, wow, that's really interesting. I haven't had a cold since I came to work here. So there are some, and of course, in 2 weeks to say, hello, I haven't had a cold isn't something that you're going to notice right away. So I think it's the feeling of calm and increased productivity that's the first ones that we feel. But just this increased feeling of wellness. So the increased calm and productivity allows you to perhaps sleep a little better. And that's another thing that EGCG and L-theanine, 2 of the molecules in tea, are known for, is they actually help you sleep better. So even though this is a caffeinated beverage, having some green tea a few hours before you sleep has been therapeutically shown to actually improve your night's sleep. Another thing is hydration. A lot of us aren't as hydrated as we need to be. And green teas are actually slightly alkaline. Even though black teas are slightly acidic, tea is a hydration positive beverage. And that's something that a lot of us, I didn't even know until rather recently. And that's research that's only happened in the last few years. So just by introducing those 32 to 40 ounces of tea per day, a lot of us may be increasing our level of hydration, which is something which also contributes to a clearer mind, a better sense of energy, etc. And then, I think just knowing that you're less tired, that you're a little less prone to that fatigue, that's the other thing that antioxidants clean up, are the major benefits that people feel. And then, of course, they may feel that they're getting a little trimmer around the waistline, a little less bloated, which are things that could happen if they're replacing, let's say, a sugared or a fatty beverage with their tea. And although you certainly can add things to tea, we generally at work don't add anything to our tea. So we've got 15 people working there and we drink tea all day long. And it's interesting, if a guest or someone comes in and wants sugar, sometimes we can't find it because we might have it once in a while for some reason, but we don't even have that on hand. And we don't add cream. Lemon is a great thing at times to add to tea, and it's actually found to increase that metabolic effectiveness of green tea. But we just loved, our teas we feel are so tasty that we just love to drink them straight. So if people are replacing something with calories in it with the 0-cal beverage, then, that's Americans consume 25% of their daily calories through beverages, which is much higher than any other population on the globe. And so if you can cut some of those out, you'll be going into a bit of a calorie deficit.
I'm so glad you answered that. That was actually a question I was going to ask, if you use anything in your tea to add to it, cream or sugar or sugar substitute. So,
and you can,
yeah,
but we don't find the need to. Yeah.
Yeah. Love that. Okay. So toughest question. I love the mission, love the gift actually of, I think one of the biggest takeaways that it deserves restating again is, I think we're all looking for an energy. We're looking for more hours in the day and a way to be more productive. But the idea that really that productivity comes from calming down. And I think women listening can identify with that, quieting the chatter, and getting the calm so that you actually can be productive. I love that that is another gift of tea.
And Deborah, that's such a great point. I just went and listened to, and I'm remiss in not recalling his name, but a Tibetan monk who spoke here in Salida the other evening. He's raising money for a girls' monastery that he's building, a Buddhist nunnery in Nepal. And this gentleman sat there in his lotus position in front of a full auditorium of folks who came to listen. And the only thing that he had on his table next to him was a cup of tea. And I thought, oh, yeah, of course. You're one of mine. And I feel that, and that was a big part of his talk, was he said he used to call the chatter in your mind, he used to call them beautiful monsters. Then he started calling them German sausages, which of course elicited great, applause from or laughter from the crowd. And then he said, now I just call them bananas. And so we need to clear out those bananas. And he had some mechanisms whereby, we would just try to whittle out this energy and get to a state of calm. And he did this quite effectively with a room full of a few hundred people. But that tea helps. Tea actually helps get you to the same chemical point that meditation brings your brain. So it increases alpha brainwave activity. And that is, as you say, a gift. I love that term. I've never used that. But I think that would be one of tea's greatest gifts, is that it can get your mind to a better place, a happier place, again, a more productive place, one where you are more yourself, where you're able to peel away those bananas, to make a creative pun there, that you can simply focus on that which is important to you and your primary mission as yourself. And it is a gift. I love the way you put that.
Okay, you have just helped me without knowing it. So I was waiting. I am not a procrastinator, so I'll tell you that. I'm usually a quick start. So I get my assignment and I jump right up. I'm waiting until the end of the month, and then I've been looking for what is the reason I am not on this. I have a membership group, and we do a challenge every month, and quite often it's about exercise. Maybe helping with a problem, helping with a specific area where we have a weak muscle, or many of us has lazy muscles due to postural things that happen in our everyday. But sometimes it's nutritional. And so what I've just decided is in September, I was coming up blank. My challenge to the group, to our cafe membership, will be 5 cups of tea a day.
And I love that, especially because September is Ovarian Cancer Awareness Month. So,
perfection. All right. So as we come to the end, I always ask guests this one last question. Maria, is there a question that you wish I would have asked you, knowing that our audience is you, our audience is women who are over 50, concerned about growing older, but growing better, growing bolder, as in the BOLDER kind, not BOU, and aging, but aging differently than we've seen any generation before us do it.
I perhaps would And I think you've asked all the best questions. So the interview has just been fantastic. But perhaps my last little words of advice on that, as someone who may be older than some of your listeners, is, aging introduces new challenges every day. And I think in particular, I don't even know if I'd put it at 50. I think I really started noticing it at 40, when your eyes start to go and things. Until 40, I didn't feel any effect of aging. I was just literally kind of continuing on the same line that I felt I was on since the age of 16 or something. But once you start to get to that point, and I can't even imagine what the heck 60 is going to be like, I think the thing that I would advise people with, and tea plays really well into this scenario as well, is don't be hard on yourself. If things are getting harder, figure out how to work around it or make it different. And things are changing in our bodies, but we can find other ways of, perhaps we've been in a routine whereby, as you say, nutritionally, you may have been getting into a rut. Well, if you adjust that a little bit, you may end up feeling better than you did 5 or 10 years ago. So honestly, it's like, don't be afraid. Don't give up. Yeah, we're aging. Yeah, there are wrinkles. Yeah, you're not going to look like you did when you were 30. But I contend that you can be far more beautiful if you're feeling better about yourself, and far stronger and far more productive. I never imagined that I would be working harder at the age of 58 than I did when I started my first company at the age of 32. But I am, and I feel that I'm a more capable and better worker now than I was then. So yeah, things aren't really all downhill. And when you do hit somewhat of a physical roadblock, there are definitely answers. There are ways around it. And I truly feel that we all can be a better us each and every day, and to wake up with the opportunity of a new day. And I feel that the unknown of each day is both, completely thwarting and intimidating, but also very beautiful. I love surprise. And of course, not all surprises are good, but, thank goodness we're on this adventure that we don't know what each next day brings. And I feel that we do have an opportunity to be a better version of ourselves each and every day. So yeah, hats off to aging. And maybe I'll talk with you after I turn 60.
Fantastic. Maria, thanks so much for being here. And we just want to make sure everybody can connect with you for more Maria, more about tea. The best place to go and learn more about you and or about the book, where would that be?
So our website is wonderful, and the book is available there. The website is theteaspot.com. The book is also available on Amazon. And to connect with me, I'm quite active on Twitter. I am at Uspenski, USPENSKI. Or you can just send me an email to maria@theteaspot.com. I'm always happy to answer questions.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. And for all of you show listeners who are still walking or doing your weight workout, keep going. All of this is in the show notes so that you can come back and click to connect with Maria and learn more about the fact that cancer hates tea and what you can do about that. And if I missed a question that you have and you're listening, please leave it below the show link at flipping50.com and join us on the Facebook fan page at Flipping50TV. If you enjoyed the show, please leave a rating in iTunes. It really helps. And share this with a friend so you can surround yourself with a supportive community of women on the same journey. What are you waiting for? Start Flipping 50 today.